Hi everyone, I'm Teacher Cheryl and welcome to my channel. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at sentence structure errors. This is an area that many students struggle with. There are a few different types of sentence structure errors, but in today's lesson, I'm going to be focusing on the two most common ones, which are run-on errors and comma splice errors. So I'll be giving you some tips on how to spot as well as to correct these errors. Let's get started. First of all, you will need to know what a complete sentence is. A complete sentence usually has a main subject, and this is usually made up of nouns or noun phrases. And a complete sentence also has a main verb. Very often, complete sentences also have something called a complement. Let's take a look at an example sentence. The cat, this is your main subject. Walks, this is your verb. On the road, this is your complement. So this is a complete sentence. If you'd like a more detailed explanation about complete sentences and how to write complete sentences, you can watch my other video and I'll leave a link in the description box below for you. So let's take a look at the first type of error, which is the run-on error. A run-on error is an error that happens by combining two sentences together without appropriate punctuation or connectors. Take a look at this example. I am enjoying this movie. The action scenes are so exciting. So remember on my previous slide, I mentioned that a complete sentence needs to have one main subject and one main verb. So let's identify that in this particular sentence. In this sentence, I is your main subject, am enjoying is your main verb, and this movie is a complement. However, you will notice that in this sentence, there is another main subject, and that is the action scenes. This is your second main subject, and are is your next main verb, and so exciting is your complement. So notice how there are two main subjects and two main verbs in this particular sentence. Therefore, there is a run-on error in this sentence. So how do we correct this error? The first thing we can do is to use a suitable punctuation. So in this same example, I could split the sentence into two parts like this. I am enjoying this movie, full stop, and I start a new sentence. The action scenes are so exciting, so I include a suitable punctuation in between the two sentences. The second thing that I could do is to use a suitable connector. So connectors are words like and, or, so, because, and so on. They're called connectors because they connect two sentences together. So take a look at my sentence. I am enjoying this movie because the action scenes are so exciting. So I've added a suitable connector to join these two sentences together. Let's go on to the second type of sentence structure errors, and that is comma splice errors. So comma splice errors are caused by combining two sentences together inappropriately with a comma. Take a look at this example. Sarah passed her exams, comma, she was feeling extremely happy. So once again, the first thing we need to do is to identify the main subject and the main verb in a sentence. So let's see. Sarah would be your main subject. Passed would be your main verb. Her exams is a complement. But if I continue reading this sentence, you'll realize that there is another main subject in this sentence, and that is she. So she is your second main subject. And was feeling, that's your second main verb, and extremely happy is your complement. So once again, there is an error in this sentence because there are two main subjects and two main verbs, and the two parts of the sentences are combined with a comma. So always go back to the main rule that one complete sentence can only have one main subject and one main verb. So let's see how we can correct this comma splice error. The first thing we can do is to use a suitable punctuation. So I know we already have a comma there, and that's punctuation. However, it's not suitable because remember I said that one complete sentence can only have one main subject and one main verb. And we have already established that this sentence has two main subjects and two main verbs. Therefore, the comma here is not an appropriate punctuation to use. So what can we do? We can actually split the sentence into two different sentences. Sarah passed her exams, full stop, start a new sentence, she was feeling extremely happy. So I've used a full stop here, which is a more appropriate punctuation. And now, both sentences only have one main subject and one main verb. An alternative way to correct this comma splice error is to use a suitable connector. Sarah passed her exams, so she was feeling extremely happy. So I've used a connector here to connect both parts together. So now that we've gone through run-on errors and comma splice errors, let's do a practice together. Take a look at this example. It's extracted from one of my students' writings. I'll read that for you first. Throughout my entire softball journey for my co-curricular activity in school, I have met a total of 5 coaches. However, among those 5 coaches, there is this one specific coach who left a really deep impression on me. Even though she had left, those words she spoke remains etched in my mind and heart. I would always remember it like yesterday. What I'd like you to do right now is to pause this video and try to spot the sentence structure error or errors in this particular paragraph. Then share your answer with me in the comment box below. I will give you a hint, there is a comma splice error in this paragraph. Also take note that there might be other grammatical errors in this paragraph, but we are only focusing on comma splice errors for today. Okay, have you done that? Now let's take a look at the paragraph together. The error can be found in the very last sentence. Even though she had left, those words she spoke remains etched in my mind and heart. I would always remember it like yesterday. So the first thing we need to do is to identify the main subject and the main verb in this sentence. So the main subject is those words she spoke, that is your main subject. Remains is your main verb. Etched in my mind and heart is your complement. And then notice again in the next part of the sentence, there is another main subject, which is I, another main verb, which is would always remember, and another complement, it like yesterday. So this sentence has 2 main subjects and 2 main verbs and is joined by a comma. Therefore, there is a comma splice error here. So how can we correct it? Remember, the first thing that we can do is to use a suitable punctuation. So I could actually split the sentence into 2 parts like this. Those words she spoke remain etched in my mind and heart, full stop, and then I start a new sentence. I would always remember it like yesterday. So instead of a comma, I use a full stop here to separate the 2 sentences so that there will only be 1 main subject and 1 main verb in each sentence. Now the second method is to use an appropriate connector. So if I were to use a connector, it might look like this. Those words she spoke remain etched in my mind and heart, and I would always remember it like yesterday. So here I've used a connector and to combine the 2 sentences together. Okay, so let's try a second example. This is another student's writing and I'm going to read that for you again. When I got my results, I ran back to my seat and saw my results. I was flabbergasted. My jaw dropped. I could not believe my eyes. I passed. I jumped for joy. I ran out of my class gleefully. I found my mom and told her I was going to express. Once more, I would like you to pause this video and try to spot the sentence structure errors. Now again, note that we are only focusing on sentence structure errors and not any other grammatical errors. I'm going to give you a hint as well. There are 2 sentence structure errors in this paragraph. So once you spotted the errors and corrected them, share your answers with me in the comment box below. Okay, have you done that? Let's go through this together. Remember, the first thing we need to do is to identify the main subject, the main verb, and a complement if there is any. So the main subject will be highlighted in pink, the main verb in green, and the complement in yellow. The very first error can be found in the very first sentence. When I got my results, I ran back to my seat and saw my results. I was flabbergasted. In this sentence, the main subject is I. Ran is your main verb. Back to my seat is the complement. Notice how this part of the sentence has an and, so there is a connector connecting 2 parts of a sentence together. So the next word saw, that is a main verb, and my results is your complement. So there is no error here because there is a connector connecting 2 parts together, and if the subject is repeated, I can actually remove the subject. So I ran back to my seat and I saw my results. This is actually a correct sentence, but notice what comes after is a comma. So there is a comma here, and if I continue the sentence, the next word is I, which again is another main subject, and was, which is another main verb. And of course, flabbergasted is your complement. Therefore, there is a comma splice error in this particular sentence. So here's the original sentence. I ran back to my seat and saw my results, comma, I was flabbergasted. So how can we correct the error? The first way is to use an appropriate punctuation. I ran back to my seat and saw my results, full stop, I was flabbergasted. So I have changed the comma to a full stop so I can separate the 2 sentences and ensure that each sentence has only 1 main verb and 1 main subject. The second way is to use an appropriate connector. I ran back to my seat and saw my results, and I was flabbergasted. So here I've used a connector to join the two parts of the sentences together. But also notice in this sentence I have two ands. I ran back to my seat and saw my results, and I was flabbergasted. So what I could probably do is change one of the ands to a comma. So it would look something like this. I ran back to my seat, comma, saw my results, and was flabbergasted. Let's go back to the question and try to spot the second error. So the second error is in the third line, the sentence, I passed, comma, I jumped for joy. Once again, let's look out for the main subject and the main verb. So I is your main subject, passed is your main verb, there is a comma here, I is your main subject again, jumped is your main verb, and for joy is a complement. So once more, this is a comma splice error because there are two main subjects and two main verbs, and both parts of the sentences are joined by a comma. So how do we correct this sentence? The first way is to use an appropriate punctuation. I passed! Exclamation mark. I jumped for joy. So once again, I split the two sentences up into two different sentences and I add an appropriate punctuation such as an exclamation mark. Therefore, both parts of the sentences now only have one main subject and one main verb. Alternatively, in method 2, we can use an appropriate connector. I passed, so I jumped for joy. In this sentence, I have used the connector so to join both sentences together. Let's summarize what we have learned so far. In order to correct a sentence structure error, we need to first check for complete sentences. Remember that a complete sentence must only have one main subject and one main verb. If we have made a sentence structure error, we can apply either one of the two methods in order to correct that error. The first thing we can do is to use an appropriate punctuation, or we can use an appropriate connector. I hope this lesson has helped you gain a better understanding of the two common types of sentence structure errors and what you can do to correct them. So what's next? As I always say, keep practicing. Keep applying the strategies that you have learned to any pieces of writing that you may do in the future. I would also love it if you construct your own sentences and share them with me in the comments box below. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Also, feel free to share this video with any of your friends or family whom you think will find it useful as well. See you in the next lesson. Bye!